Deleted session, March 13, 1974. Good evening. Now, some remarks for Ruber, and this is not dictation. Particular suggestions given in a group of closely allied sessions for him are geared to his condition at that time, and to the circumstances. While the reasons and beliefs as discussed in such sessions will still be valid, the suggestions that I give will be geared toward their application in given circumstances. Now, Ruber is working on aspects under contract. With his deadline, the 3-hour-a-day recommendations were given under different circumstances. Give us a moment. It might be helpful to clear some issues that have not been discussed in this manner particularly. Ruber wants to write the bulk of the day, yet he now believes it is unhealthy to do that. Give us a moment with this. He believes he should be working, yet also that he should be more physically active. The symptoms then become intensified at times. As you have told him, there is nothing wrong with working all day and all night, as long as he is physically free, and is not working under enforced conditions. If he did freely now, work as long and often as he wanted to, without worrying about going out or housework, then naturally the period of intense mental activity would bring about a desire to go out and be physically active. Writing the creative energies in that manner, you see, would allow him to recognize his own rhythm, flow and ebb. When his mind was tired, it would automatically signal the body to physical activity, walks, change environment, and so forth. The point of such a suggestion, however, rests in writing freely. When he is writing and also thinking that he should go for a walk, then the conflicts arise more strongly. He knows that he wants to be writing. The conflict itself then prevents the follow-through thrust, so that he does not feel the natural relaxation that would follow, or the natural resulting desire for activity. Give us a moment. It is important, however, to realize that to some extent he feels that long hours of writing are now wrong, because of the physical condition in which he finds himself. Now, for a moment, tell him to imagine himself, generally speaking, well. If he wrote steadily, even, and did not go out for 2 or 3 days, he would not think that there was anything wrong in that, nor would there be. When the stint was over, he would feel perhaps a strong burst of physically directed energy, and want to clean the house or go for walks. The condition itself, then, and his attitude toward it, have complicated issues. There are a variety actually of methods that can help him, various ones at different times, according to his circumstances. Give us time. The earlier he begins writing, as of now, the better off he is. Part of the conflict has arisen, however, also because he feels that what he often wants to do, write many hours, is physically wrong. Some of this has to do with current mass beliefs based on the idea of the mechanisms of the body being more important than the thoughts behind the body's working. You have been told that sitting down for hours is unhealthy, that stiffness results, and so forth. To some extent, Ruber believes it, and believes that the body must suffer if it sits for long periods, and so forth. The body is quite equipped on its own to remain flexible, and left alone will perform a variety of small motions while sitting, for example, to ensure its flexibility. Ruber believes now that it is wrong not to go out each day. Certainly, I have suggested in the past that he go out, but in line with the circumstances and the time and the condition to which his beliefs had led him. Give us a moment. It will help when he is walking, particularly whenever he is unduly bothered, to stop and say, what do I think about what I am doing in this moment? And what do I think I should be doing differently? Have him write as much as he wants, and not to stew about housework, for example, or working outside. His natural pattern would be to do housework also, in bursts of activity. While these suggestions may appear on the surface quite different from others I have given, if you look closely, you will see that they are another method of encouraging spontaneity, and methods most suited now to his circumstances. In a weekly period, for example, Ralph noted rather than a daily one. They said these suggestions, if followed, will show him his own rhythms and patterns, so that he may feel like going out impulsively because he wants to, after a bout of writing, rather than feel that he should. Apropos of your joint discussion on Monday, it was advantageous. One point Ruber missed, however, he knows when he spontaneously wants to go out, or to a joint, or whatever. When he tells himself that he must go out every day, then that feeling goes directly counter to his feelings that he may know quite well he wants to write and not go out. The symptoms then are intensified because of the conflict. On the other hand, if he is writing and spontaneously wants to move about and realizes this, have him get up, watch a window, or go out. Have him trust his instincts. The mind needs that rest. Give us a moment for some to follow. You were quite correct in your assessment of Monday night, about Ruber being determined to use his abilities, and also in the balance that is being more or less maintained. There are, however, definite points of both additional energy and therefore insights available at different times. There are too many reasons to be given in this session, but they apply generally to each individual, having to do with the nature of the psyche's initial entry into your system. I am hinting here of connections with astrology, though certainly not with the astrology currently known. For Ruber, spring and fall are periods when all of his energy rouses at a highly creative level, and the insights are particularly valuable at such times. The period before an individual's birth is enacted again symbolically, but in new ways, each year. The seeking toward birth is a spiritual stimuli that is then reenacted, but in new creative ways, so that Ruber in winter, particularly in late winter, is on the one hand working toward new births of energy and creativity, and on the other is aware of the very need for such new births that would be implied in a before-birth situation. Your temperaments are different, yet in your way, at a somewhat later era, you experience the same kind of phenomena in a yearly cycle. In winter, whatever attitudes Ruber has are intensified, emphasized, worked with, but it is not a period conducive of change or fluidity. According to the ideas, of course, this can be highly advantageous, unfortunate, or for any place between. Give us time. Each personality would definitely translate all of this in its own way. I cannot emphasize that enough. Ruber, however, equates winter to some extent with being on board, however. Naturally, high winds or snowstorms used to exhilarate him and act as stimuli, but overall, his physical being always exhibited its greatest health, flexibility, and exuberance in the other seasons. With the physical condition to some extent, the tendencies in winter were overemphasized. He does not naturally feel as great a ripple then as he does in the other seasons. He has been telling himself that he must go out in the face of some other tendencies, then that ordinarily in a good state of flexibility would be relatively unnoticed. That is not a particularly important point, but given here simply to give you an idea of other issues that operate having to do with a personality's natural leanings toward certain seasonal conditions. There is much more, generally speaking, and one day I hope to give you much material for its overall benefit. Since infancy, for example, Rupert's hormonal output has always increased in spring and autumn, and all of the important affairs of his life are initiated then. There are periods of quietude, flux, and change then in each individual's life that are to some extent connected with the point of emergence into space and time. They are simply various kinds of patterned behavior, swords of interactions as the soul meets space and time. Give us a moment. I am not speaking, you understand, of any kind of predetermination, but of temperamental tendencies used differently by each individual. In winter, Rupert was in. It is even a type of hibernation that could result in a restful period. Your own interpretations of Monday evening were excellent and gave you, and even Rupert, some perspective. The feelings of his that I made clear this evening will help him. The two of you did indeed embark on a joint venture, using now reincarnational terms. The purposes were there, the methods were left open. You were correct in assuming that Rupert would not let the situation go beyond a certain point. I said that the methods were left open, and at one time you contemplated for yourself the same kind of situation, but turned aside from it after a taste of what it meant, or could mean. There were many other methods. Rupert felt that because he was younger than you, he could more safely afford the particular method he chose. The solution lies, of course, in the method, in that it was meant as a method to an end, and not as an end in itself. If this is understood clearly as a method, then Rupert will realize that he is quite at liberty to change a method, particularly when he has run it into the ground. Nor should he berate himself, for a method is a learning process, and from it he has indeed learned much. He knew well, however, that the method was taken only for a time. The fears about the future are natural triggers within the method itself that automatically prevent it from going too far, and that signal the end of the method itself. It was not an easy road, in certain terms. On the other hand, it gave Rupert exactly what he wanted in experience. The two of you jointly also did agree, despite your own feelings in space and time, and I understand them. I know that the method will be left behind. I am well aware, however, of your attitudes in the time as you experience it. Rupert, however, did choose a condition which could be experienced and then conquered. It was a condition that, for example, would not involve destruction of organs or reliance upon the medical profession. This would blur the issues. It did not have to be physical. It could have involved instead any of the numberless problems that people have. Ruber rejected most of those, and so, in your relationship with Ruber, did you? Do you want a break? Ralph said no. They said, you have been deeply concerned in other lives also with the human condition and worked in many areas. One of the reasons you chose not to have children was to devote yourselves to that end now. For your particular purposes, you also needed to be free of many strong emotional attachments, not because such attachments are not good, but because for you and your purposes, they would blur the issues. Ruber wanted to have a strong emotional nature in order to relate with other people, and yet also wanted to control and focus that nature, so that it would also be directed toward his purpose. The symptoms also served that end. At the same time, they allowed him to relate to those who were ill and unhappy in a way that he might not, he felt, have otherwise allowed. The whole point, however, was to transcend the method itself, but the method could not be pretended. When this is clearly understood, then you and he will see that the method is only half experienced, for the method itself includes triumph over the conditions. If this is not understood, then the method seems purposeless to a large degree. The method also, in an odd way, allows others to relate to Ruber. When, as he will, he recovers his flexibility, then he is talking as someone who has overcome and had something to overcome. It is easy to say that he has maligned his body, but the entire personality is body and mind, and all, and the body itself has learned some comprehensions and joys also, having to do with sense appreciation that some people never physically now experience. The other half of the method, therefore, lies in dropping it, and this was built in from the beginning. Again, the choice was of a condition that could be overcome, and that did not involve the medical profession. He chose ahead of time something, in other words, with which he knew he could cope and successfully. Someone working for their own purposes at an entirely different level might choose a physical condition that necessitated the medical profession and might result in an important medical discovery. Your part of the purpose, of course, was to witness Rupert's condition, and therefore give you an emotional realization of the nature of beliefs as they applied not only to the two of you, but to others. Rupert's vitality, then, despite the conditions, will also serve to remind you of the indomitable vitality of the race, and your part in trying to set forth ideas and directions that would be of benefit. In what may seem to be an odd fashion, also, your reactions kept you emotionally alive, and kept you from pulling too deeply into yourselves. I have given enough for the night, but it is an important session. We will continue with the book, but when I have something to say to you personally, I will feel free to do so. In between times, there will be some reincarnational material that will throw light on this evening's session. There is a connection between what is loosely called astrology and the reincarnational data, by the way. Now I bid you a fond good evening, and suggest you read my suggestions, at least to Ruber in the morning. Ralph said, all right, good night, Seth, and thank you.